For a decade, she watched life happening on the other side of the window while her own remained suspended in time. Everything in her routine was predictable until the day a blue truck parked in the house across the street. With it came noises, laughter, and something she had forgotten: movement. But what seemed like just a new presence in the neighborhood would soon become the beginning of something deeper, a collision between silence and life, between past and possibility. Sometimes the world doesn't knock at the door, it simply settles across the street. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. Jenny Bennett watched the world through her living room window as if she were watching a silent film. From the chair strategically positioned near the sheer lace curtain, she saw children running, couples strolling, neighbours carrying groceries, and life happening outside. Meanwhile, inside her house, time seemed to have been suspended for exactly 10 years. The wall clock, an heirloom from her grandmother, showed 2 o'clock in the afternoon. In 20 minutes, Sophia, her Tuesday piano student, would arrive. Jenny arranged the sheet music on the black grand piano that dominated the room. It was an old Steinway, her silent companion, the only survivor of a past she refused to relive completely. Her fingers gently brushed the keys, but she didn't press any of them. It had been 10 years since the accident that took David, her fiancé, and she had not played for herself. The piano, once her passion, had become merely her livelihood, a tool to teach others, never again to express her own soul. The sound of a noisy engine shattered the silence of the quiet afternoon. Jenny frowned and looked out the window. A worn-out blue pickup truck was parking in front of the empty house across the street. The for sale sign that had been there for months had disappeared. A tall man with dishevelled brown hair stepped out of the vehicle, followed by a dark-haired girl who looked about 12 years old. The girl's sulky expression made it clear she wasn't happy about the move. The man smiled and said something Jenny couldn't hear, but it had no effect on the girl's face. Soon after, a more powerful rumble caught her attention. An old motorcycle, probably from the 70s, was being unloaded from the truck bed with almost paternal care by the man. "Great," Jenny muttered to herself, "a noisy neighbour." The sound of the doorbell brought her back to reality. Her student Sophia had arrived 5 minutes early. Jenny moved away from the window, put on her best professional smile, and went to answer the door. That night, Jenny tried to sleep, but the occasional sound of the motorcycle being started in the front yard kept her awake. Sometimes she heard laughter. The girls had a peculiar tone, like notes of a xylophone. At another time in her life, Jenny would have found it charming. Now it seemed just an intrusion into the silence she had built around herself. 2 days later, the doorbell rang when Jenny wasn't expecting any students. Hesitantly, she opened the door to find the new neighbour smiling with an empty cup in hand. "Good morning. I'm Ethan. I just moved into the house across the street. Sorry to bother you, but could you lend me some sugar? I haven't had time to do decent shopping yet." Jenny noticed his green eyes, easy smile, and hands marked by manual labour. There was something unassuming about his presence that momentarily unsettled her. "Sure," she replied, stepping back into the house. "You can come in while I get it." "Nice piano," he commented as he waited in the entryway, glancing into the living room. "Does someone play?" "I give lessons," Jenny replied, returning with the sugar. "Professionally." "Really? What an incredible coincidence." Ethan took the glass, his face lighting up. "My daughter, Leah, used to play the piano before we moved. I'm looking for a teacher for her to continue." Jenny hesitated. That would mean more interaction with the new neighbours than she planned. "I have some available slots," she finally said. "If you'd like to bring your daughter to talk." "Great. She will love it. Can it be tomorrow at 5? Before Jenny could think of an excuse, she had already agreed. The following afternoon, promptly at 5, Leah was sitting on the piano bench, looking at the keys with a mixture of boredom and challenge. "I don't need lessons," the girl declared. "I already know how to play." Show me what you know then, Jenny suggested, keeping her voice neutral. Leah took a deep breath and began to play. Her fingers danced across the keys with a confidence surprising for someone so young. It wasn't perfect. There were notes out of time and some technical flaws, but there was passion. Jenny recognized the piece. It was the first movement of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, the same one that— "Enough," Jenny said abruptly, interrupting the girl. "You have talent, but you need technique." Leah stopped, surprised. "You didn't like it?" "I did," Jenny admitted. "But you need to learn discipline before expression." Ethan, who was watching from the entrance of the room, frowned. "I thought it was beautiful." "It is beautiful," agreed Jenny, softening her tone. "But it can be better." Leah looked at her father and then at Jenny. There was a glimmer of challenge in her eyes. "All right," said the girl. "I'll learn the right way, but you'll have to show me how it's done." Jenny swallowed hard. "I teach, you execute. That's how it works." "Her former teacher always demonstrated first," Ethan commented. "Every teacher has their method," Jenny replied dryly. "We can start on Monday at 4 o'clock. Over the weekend, her friend Maggie showed up for Saturday afternoon tea, a ritual she had maintained with Jenny since the accident. Maggie was the opposite of Jenny. Outgoing, talkative, always ready for a new adventure. "So, do you have new and beautiful neighbours?" Maggie asked while nibbling on a cookie. "I have new neighbours, and noisy ones," Jenny corrected. "I saw the guy on the motorcycle when I was arriving. Very charming, with that slightly crooked smile." Jenny rolled her eyes. "He is the father of one of my new students." "Ah, so you're already giving lessons to the family?" Maggie raised an eyebrow. "Quick progress." "It's just work, Maggie." "Jenny, dear, it's been 10 years. David wouldn't want you to—" "Let's not talk about it," Jenny interrupted, getting up to get more tea. From the kitchen, she heard the sound of the motorcycle. Without thinking, she approached the window just in time to see Ethan leaving with Leah riding pillion, both laughing as they sped down the street. Something inside her tightened, not from pain, but from an undefined longing for something she had never had. That lightness, that freedom. On Monday, Leah arrived for class carrying a small bouquet of wild daisies. "They are from our garden," the girl explained. "Daddy said you seem to like flowers. You have a lot in your garden." Jenny accepted the flowers, surprised. It was true. She kept the garden immaculate, a legacy from her mother, but she had never imagined that anyone would notice. "Thank you, Leah. They're beautiful." In the following weeks, the lessons became part of Jenny's routine. Leah was stubborn, but also determined. She asked too many questions about technique, about music, and eventually about Jenny. "Why do you never play?" Leah asked one day, after finishing an exercise. "I play when I teach," replied Jenny. "No, you just show small excerpts. You never play a whole song." Jenny felt her hands go cold. "Focus on your own practice, Leah." Later that week, Ethan showed up to pick up his daughter, but arrived half an hour before the end of the lesson. "I'm sorry for being early," he said, looking genuinely embarrassed. "I finished a job earlier and thought about stopping by the market with Leah before we head home." "That's fine," Jenny replied. "We can wrap up for today." "No way," Leah protested. "I'm almost getting this part." "I can wait," Ethan offered, retreating to the sofa in the corner of the room. "David, She hesitated. "A friend had one similar." "Your boyfriend?" Leah asked directly. "Leah," Ethan reprimanded. "It's okay," Jenny said. "Yes, my fiancé. He passed away 10 years ago." The silence that followed was not uncomfortable, but respectful. "I'm sorry," Ethan finally said. "It must have been hard." Jenny nodded, unable to elaborate. For some reason she didn't want their pity to define her, as it did for so many people. "My mother left when I was 9, Leah offered, surprising both Jenny and Ethan. "Didn't die, just didn't want to be a mother anymore." "Leah, we don't need to." Ethan began. All right, Dad. Mrs. Bennet shared something difficult. I'm just reciprocating. Jenny looked at the girl with new understanding. Behind the rebellion and the insistent questions was a child trying to make sense of her own abandonment. Thank you for telling me, Leah, Jenny said gently. Old motorcycle, new life, Ethan commented, running his hand through his daughter's hair. It seems to work for us. Jenny smiled, not the polite smile she reserved for students and the few visitors, but a genuine one that came from some forgotten place within her. Are you adapting well to the city? We're discovering it little by little, Ethan replied. We haven't found the best pizzeria yet, for example. Luigi's, Jenny replied promptly. On the main avenue, order the margarita with fresh basil. You should come with us, Leah suggested. Friday is our pizza day. Jenny felt the familiar urge to retreat, to return to the comfort of her solitary routine, but something stopped her. I'll think about it, she replied. That night, Maggie called, as she regularly did to check on Jenny's social isolation level, as she joked. I talked to the new neighbours today, Jenny commented casually. Oh my God, I'll mark it on the calendar, June 15th, the day Jenny Bennet started a conversation with strangers. Don't be dramatic, Jenny laughed. They are nice. Did you laugh? Am I hearing a genuine laugh? Stop that. Jenny Bennet, you may be hiding behind a piano, but your heart is already crossing the street. Maggie's words stayed with Jenny in the days that followed. On Friday, when Leah reminded her about the pizza after class, Jenny surprised everyone, including herself, by accepting. The dinner was surprisingly pleasant. Leah dominated the conversation with stories from her old school and ambitious plans for the future. I'm going to be a pianist and an astronaut. I don't see why I can't be both. Ethan watched his daughter with evident pride, occasionally exchanging knowing glances with Jenny about the girl's enthusiasm. More dinners followed, sometimes at the pizzeria, sometimes a coffee after classes. One evening, Ethan invited Jenny to dinner, just the two of them. She accepted, feeling a mix of excitement and guilt she couldn't fully explain. They scheduled it for a Tuesday. Jenny spent the day anxious, alternating between the desire to get ready and the urge to cancel everything. In the afternoon, while choosing what to wear, her gaze fell on the calendar. And then she realized it was July 28th, the anniversary of David's death. How could she have forgotten? How could she even consider going out, smiling, living on that specific day? Guilt engulfed her like a wave, suffocating and familiar. Jenny picked up the phone with trembling hands and sent a message to Ethan cancelling dinner, without giving any explanations. Then, she went to the bedside table where she kept a photo of David. He was smiling, the wind tousling his hair, his hands resting on the handlebars of his motorcycle. I'm sorry, she whispered as tears began to fall. I'm sorry for forgetting. I'm sorry for almost moving on. The doorbell rang at 7 o'clock sharp, the time they had arranged for dinner. Jenny froze, hoping that if she ignored it, Ethan would leave. The doorbell rang again, more insistently. Finally, she went to the door, her eyes still red. Ethan was there, holding a small bouquet of wild daisies, the same ones that grew in his garden, the same ones Leah had given him weeks before. You didn't respond to my other messages, he said, concern evident on his face. Is everything okay? Today is not a good day, Jenny replied, her voice trembling. I should have remembered before accepting the invitation. Remembered what? David, my fiancé, left today, 10 years ago. Understanding passed over Ethan's face. He didn't offer empty words of consolation, he just nodded. I understand. We don't have to go out. You don't need to stay, Jenny insisted. I just want to... be alone, he completed softly. Are you sure? Sometimes loneliness only deepens the pain. Jenny hesitated, uncertain. Part of her wanted to cling to the morning ritual she had established, being alone, reliving memories. punishing herself for being alive. Another part, however, was tired of the darkness. "You could come in for a bit," she finally offered. Instead of going to the living room, Ethan suggested the backyard garden. "It's a beautiful night." He improvised a small picnic on the lawn, using the blanket Jenny kept in the porch closet. He brought a small basket from the truck. He had prepared for dinner, even after the cancellation message. Sitting under the stars, Jenny talked about David for the first time in years. Not just about his death, but about his life, his bad jokes, his passion for music, and old motorcycles. "He seemed like an extraordinary person," Ethan commented when she finally paused. "He was. And I couldn't save him." "No one expects you to save someone, Jenny. Just that you honor their memory by living fully. It's hard to live when you feel guilty for being alive." Ethan was silent for a moment. "When Caroline, Leah's mother, left, I spent years wondering what I could have done differently. What was wrong with me that made her choose a life without us?" "And what did you find out?" "That her choice was not about me. It was about her, just like the accident wasn't about you." Jenny absorbed the words slowly. She looked at the starry sky, feeling a gentle breeze touch her face like a caress. "I never thought of it that way," she admitted. They talked until late into the night, about losses and new beginnings, about fear and courage. At some point, Jenny realized she had fallen asleep on Ethan's shoulder. When she woke up, the sky was beginning to brighten. Ethan was sleeping beside her, an arm protectively over her. On the horizon, the first colors of dawn started to paint the sky. Jenny observed that sunrise as if it were the first, or perhaps, she thought, it was just the first she truly saw in 10 years. From the house next door, she could hear the sound of Leah trying to play the Moonlight Sonata. That morning, for the first time in a decade, Jenny sat at the piano not to teach, but to play for herself. The same sonata that Leah was practicing, the same one David loved, the same one she had played the day she met him. The notes flowed from her fingers like water long held back, finally finding its way back to the river. Through the open window, she saw Ethan and Leah in the front yard listening. As the last note of the sonata echoed through the air, Jenny kept her eyes closed for a moment, as if sealing a chapter with reverence. When she opened them, she met Ethan's eyes through the window. There was no rush there, just presence. And in that calm gaze, Jenny realized something that didn't have a name yet, but pulsed strongly. A feeling that didn't replace the past, but offered a new beginning. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't afraid of tomorrow. Because now, instead of merely surviving time, she began to walk with it, accompanied. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.